I have always been interested in mechanical things, building things that can work, do all sorts of interesting things mechanically. No fancy electronics, nothing really. Phil, do you happen to have my pen?
I do.
May I have it, please? Speaking of mechanical things, there's some things that I'd want to make sure to keep safe. Now, keeping things safe is an age-old question. From the time that people have had the concept of "that's mine," people have been looking for ways to protect what's theirs, to keep it from others who would want to take it. The oldest locks that have been discovered in archaeological digs are about 6,000 years old. Over time, things have changed, developed. The first combination lock was discovered in a dig in Iran now. It was discovered in Persia in the 1400s. And the first modern lock, what you'd think of as the key and lock that we normally use today, was invented by Linus Yale in the United States. Actually, Linus Yale Sr., and then his son came 20 years later, Linus Yale Jr., and modified it a bit to what we know now. So, I wanted to start by taking a look at a combination lock, seeing how this works. I wanted to give a huge thanks to my daughter, who assisted me with constructing this model. Now, this is a typical kind of lock that you might find on a regular safe, other than the fact that it's made out of styrofoam instead of nice hard steel. But I wanted to show you what's actually involved in this device. So, we have here several parts. The combination dial, or dials. There are 3 of these that get mounted like that. Now, obviously, a real lock isn't necessarily going to be made of simple construction like that. These are well machined. This one, not so much, but again, it's just a model. We have here the locking latch. This is the part that actually controls whether or not you can open the door of the safe, of the lock. And the parts that we're more familiar with here, the combination dial itself, where you put in the combination for the lock, and the latch to open and close the lock. It actually occurred to me when I was building this, this looks, other than the color, looks very similar to what I have in my shul in the Aron Kodesh. So how does this work? Most of us are familiar with these kinds of locks from school days with lockers, the kinds of things. You have to turn it 2 times this way, 1 time that way, then back to the number that is your combination in order to unlock it. So what actually happens when this is done? Well, when you turn this, we're turning the first wheel here, which is actually physically attached to the combination dial. In this particular case, it's glued onto the same stick. A real lock can use something more significant than glue, but the concept is the same. So you turn the first one once, and somewhere along the line, these tabs catch, and it picks up the next wheel. Keep doing that, and the tab here on the other side of this middle wheel catches the third wheel. Once you're doing that, it doesn't matter how many times you continue turning it, they're all turning together. You keep turning it until you get to the combination number for the last wheel. Now this leaves this tab here, or this notch here, open, at which point we leave that wheel and turn this the other way. Now that's part of the trouble of having a styrofoam model, is that this is turning when it's not supposed to. But I turn this now, assuming it's behaving. Back the other way till it picks up the second wheel, but leaves the first wheel where it was. And then stop at the second number, which leaves these two notches lined up. All right? And finally turn the last wheel back to where that's lined up, at which point the locking latch can, with this, turn here. And in a full safe, this part here would be connected to something that goes outside of the door into the wall of the safe. And by turning this, it pulls it open so that the door can be opened. Now, there are other kinds of locks as well. Which I'll do just a quick demonstration of since I seem to be low on time. The standard Yale lock, this is just a partial model of it, has a number of pins. The bolt, the plug in the middle, which is the part that turns. And most importantly, this line here, which is called the shear line. This is where there's actually a hole in these pins. And when you put in a lock, I'll use this one because this is the correct key. What happens is these pins get pushed up to the point where they line up with the shear line. And once that line is all straight, the plug will turn. And that's how you unlock the door. If you try this with a different key, they don't line up with the shear line. And thus, the plug will not turn. And that's how you protect what's behind the lock and key. So this is a very simple model of locks, keys, combinations. It's obviously a lot more to go into if you want to get into either locksmithing or lock picking, both of which are actually rather interesting fields. But even for those who are not interested in going that much into this specialty, it's still interesting to understand how these things work and how they protect what's important to us.